Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another breakfast with Blaha. Today we're going to talk about fat loss. Now we're going to talk about fat loss drug that just got approved within the last week by the FDA. I believe it's pronounced Wegovy. And this is important for a reason, because I've said for a long time, along with most experts out there, that calories in, calories out is the model for obesity. One of the counter arguments, which is not accepted in the mainstream, by the way, if you believe this, you were part of a fringe movement. Just so you understand that, the majority of medical experts, the majority of registered dietitians, fat loss experts, they don't support this. And that's the insulin obesity hypothesis. And the idea here is that insulin is largely responsible for gaining body fat. Doesn't actually seem to be the case, though. The overwhelming majority of the data supports the idea that it really is calories in, calories out. And we're not saying that all calories are completely equal, that the body processes them equal, or any of that. It's just that it's the largest factor. Okay, and that doesn't tell you how much muscle versus fat you're losing, things like that. There's a lot of other factors there. Like what you're losing in your calorie deficit, your ratios of muscle to fat or whatever types of tissue, a lot of other factors there. But the loss of tissue weight will be calories in, calories out. And generally speaking, a calorie deficit will cause fat loss. Actually, a calorie deficit always causes fat loss, no matter what. Any arguments to the contrary have been heavily debunked at this point. It's always, at this point, small amounts of personal anecdote, usually based upon nonsense, delusions people have when they're in a deficit, which has actually been studied quite a bit. Right? It's been studied a lot. We know why people in a deficit overeat and get fat and still think that they're on 1,000 calories. This has been studied in the metabolic ward and looked at by psychologists. We know why this happens. Okay, so we have this new drug that's been approved. Now, they're calling it the gold standard, everything else. And this goes to show you guys how really ineffective fat loss drugs in general can be. Because they noted it's essentially not an insulin mimicking drug, it's a drug that makes your body secrete more insulin. Right, we get a larger insulin response, which is what we actually need in certain types of diabetes, like type 2 diabetes. It's what it's being used to treat. And again, it's a daily injection. But it causes the body to secrete more insulin. Now, when you look at it from that perspective, anyone who thinks that insulin itself, your body's secretion of insulin, somehow stops you from burning body fat, or that it causes you to gain body fat, etc., they're not up to speed with the literature, for one. But their head should be screaming right now. They should be screaming, oh, no, if this thing makes you secrete more insulin, it can't possibly be a fat loss drug. Well, it is. And here's what they found. They found, through the companies running trials on this stuff, is that people on higher doses were losing body fat. They were losing body fat. So it got studied closer. Right? It got studied closer. It's like, well, if they're losing body fat, what's the mechanism, and can it be consistent? And what they found is, in spite of the extra insulin secretion, people were losing body fat because their appetite was lower. It turns out that this drug suppresses appetite. Therefore, it makes it a magical fat loss drug. Now, it's only about £1 a month, by the way. That's what they found. People who use it versus people who didn't. In the clinical trials on weight loss, it was about 1 extra pound of body fat per month on similar diet protocols. Because they eat less. That's it. They are eating less. It is suppressing appetite. Now, here's the other thing. Most of the supplements you guys are buying and they claim to help with certain things is always this statement has not been evaluated by the FDA, right? And which is why most supplements don't work. In other words, if it's illegal for you to buy over the counter, it probably doesn't work for muscle gain or fat loss. Why? Because those are drugs. See, that's the problem with the supplement industry. It can't really legally sell you things that work. Because if a substance actually really does help gain muscle, has anabolic properties, it probably has serious side effects of some type because that doesn't happen otherwise. Things that make a profound change in the body. Therefore, it gets classified as a drug. They can't sell it to you at a GNC at that point. Okay, it's a drug. It's not a supplement. So again, anything proven to do these things, the same thing with fat loss. If a supplement is proven, like ephedra was, to help with fat loss, it's no longer a supplement, it's a drug because it works and creates a robust effect in the body. The FDA will then regulate it. Okay? Food and Drug Administration, because it's a drug. It's a drug. So again, supplements are generally things that have not been proven to work. Once they're proven to work, they usually get outlawed for over the counter. That's how it works. So you're taking stuff that doesn't work, or if it does work, it hasn't been proven to work, and it will be made illegal eventually. This one, the FDA has said, hey, this does cause fat loss. But it does it purely through the pathway of reducing appetite. That's it. Because that is the magic secret to fat loss. It's to eat less and move more. Calories in versus calories out. That's it. That's the entirety. That's all of it. So when you have a drug that comes along and is shown to do this, no surprise, what does it do? It suppresses appetite. You eat less. And again, ironically, it causes your body to secrete more insulin. Okay? Again, more debunking of the silly insulin obesity hypothesis. Higher insulin still led to fat loss because it reduces appetite. Because calories in versus calories out matters more than hormones. Here's the other thing. We could make the argument that insulin is muscle sparing. By the way, which is why, and I've got white rice in here while I'm cutting right now, which is why in a calorie deficit, white rice showed better muscle retention than brown rice in a study done about 15 years ago. Or insulinogenic. Insulinogenic foods are not your enemy. They're not. They are better at building muscle and preserving muscle because insulin is more anabolic to muscle tissue than it is to fat tissue. Okay, and that's what people forget. That's what people forget. It's more anabolic to muscle tissue than it is to fat tissue. Fat tissue. It's not your enemy. It doesn't cause you to gain body fat. It doesn't impede your loss of body fat. And again, the clinical trials on this drug show that. They show that. They're in support of that. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.